Welcome, everybody. Renee has asked me to lead today since she doesn't have a voice. So I'm very pleased to be able to share with you today's Gems of Wisdom. And Gems of Wisdom is a conversational circle where we talk on different subjects of the citizens of the future, as in the Still and Movement Center's 2023 Almanac. And today we are blessed to have Kumu, oh, I just lost it again, Mālia Helelā. Did I say that right? Oh, good. All of us who know her are blessed to have spent time with Kumu Mālia and know that the time we spend with her seems to indeed to flow like a river. Kumu Mālia actively cultivates grace. We find graceful flow in all the hula dancing that she does and teaches, and in all the Lomilomi massage that she gives, trains other people to give. Most importantly, we find the graciousness in the way she conducts her life. Like a sure flowing river, Mālia navigates over and around and through every obstacle in her path. Mālia's strong, graceful hands have been giving Lomilomi massage professionally for over 25 years. She's been a fount of inspiration to our hula students since she became a Kumu Hula over 2 decades ago. For the Still and Movement Center, Mālia has provided a steadfast element of continuity since the day we opened. She is like a sustaining river to all of us. And before I turn it over, to you willing to read the John Muir quote that's in the chat room? Maurice, would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I would. The rivers flow not past, but through us, thrilling, tingling, vibrating every fiber and cell of the substance of our bodies, making them glide and sing. John Muir.
And I'd like to turn it over to you and ask if you would lead the conversation, and then we'll open it up to everyone else. Thank you so much.
Mahalo nui for that warm welcome. Aloha Diana, aloha everybody. I would like to actually begin with an oli. This is a little unusual in that I'm going to actually play a video of an oli. This is a chant of loving welcome. And when I share this, I think you'll see why I wanted to do it this way instead of by chanting. So I am in my backyard, which is why you see the occasional umbrella. It's drizzling a little bit off and on. But this is the stream that flows right behind my house. And so this is the Waikakala'ua stream and a chant of loving welcome to each and every one of you. May love be with you. May love be with you. As I was preparing for this talk today, I realized that I could easily talk for many, many hours. And so rather than going off on the many wonderful tangents of my mind, I decided to really just bring our discussion today to bear with a chant that is a traditional chant called Kawai Akane. And we're going to go through it a little bit at a time, and then I'll do it in its entirety at the end. And so let's begin. And so, flowing like the river. Ho'omoi vaikahi ke ka'o'o. Let's all travel together like water, flowing in one direction. And this is a Hawaiian proverb. This is my daughter, Ilana, sitting next to the same stream that I was chanting right next to earlier. Kahikina means the east. And our chant begins like this. He ui he ni no, e ui akuan au ya oi, aya I hea kawai akane, aya I kahikina kala pukai hae hae, Aya ilaila kavai akane. And so a question that I put to you, where is the water of Kane? At the eastern gate where the sun comes in at Ha'e Ha'e, there is the water of Kane. And so it's very appropriate that we begin in the east, because in Hawaii and in many parts of the world, the east is synonymous with new beginnings, with a fresh start, with something brand new, a new day, a new opportunity, a new life. And I have a little spider. Sorry, let me just put him on the side. Sorry about that. And so the east is referenced in many chants, particularly in hula ka'i, which are hula dances that bring the dancers onto a stage. Ka'i means to lead. And so as the sun is rising, bringing light and a new day, the dancers come forward onto the stage. And in terms of water that's found in the east, just take a moment and consider, where might the water be in the east? And if you've ever been out in nature in the morning with the sun shining on all of the dew, you would understand where that morning, that eastern water comes from. It's that water that collects as dew upon the earth. So let's move on to the next part of our chant. Ke Komohana is the west, and this is my son with the surfboard. E wia kuana auia oi, aia I hea kawai akane, aia I kaulana kala I ka pai o pua I ke kai, ea mai ana mani hoa ma ka mole mai o le hua, aia I laila kawai akane. A question I ask of you, where is the water of Kane? Out there with the floating sun, where the cloud forms rest on the ocean, uplifting their forms of nihoa, this side, the base of Lehua, there is the water of Kane. And so with these first two motifs of east and west, we have a window into Hawaiian thought, the sense of balance of a complete cycle. So as with the east, new beginnings, we have west and endings. We have closure, we have rest, we have a time to move on and to let go. Komohana is also synonymous with the passing of souls. And so many points, many Western points on the islands are called lele, where spirits will leave, they will leap, they'll jump into the next world. And what's been very heavy to consider about names, and Hawaiian names are very powerful, one of the older names of Lahaina is lele. Kamalu'ulua o lele, the ulu trees, the breadfruit trees of lele. And so this place that carried the name of Lele, which is a place where souls move to the next place, is carried still. That name is still being used for Lahaina. For the ocean, of course, naturally, the ocean provides such an important source of water that evaporates up into the sky, forming clouds, forming rain. And just a little wisdom from the ocean that I wanted to, with the west going into the ocean. I will share that little bit of wisdom about the ocean in a moment, just as a bit of wisdom from my dad, who himself passed about 1.5 years ago. All right, so we have the east, beginnings, we have the west, which are closure and endings. And now we move to Iuka. Iuka is the uplands, it's the mountain areas. E ui a kuana auia oi, aia I hea kawai akane, aia I ke kua hivi, ke kua lono, ke avava I ke kahawai, aia I laila kawai akane. One question I put to you, where is the water of Kane? Yonder on mountain peak, on the ridges steep, in the valleys deep, where the rivers sweep, there is the water of Kane. And so Iuka, we see the very tops of the mountains, which are sacred areas. Not very many people would actually go up into the mountains. That was the domain of the divine. That was where you would only go if you had a very specific purpose. For example, if you're gathering medicine, or if you're going to gather feathers from the birds, the uplands were considered sacred and pure, and that is the source of where our drinking water, the water we see here in our lands, it originates at the top where the clouds gather. And we can see this very interesting cloud shape over Konahuanui. If you know Oahu, Honolulu is back on this side, and the pass to go into Kailua comes through here. And so this shows this understanding, I believe, of that water cycle where we start up on the mountain peak. The ridges and the valleys carry the water down and gather that water together to form our streams and our rivers that flow into the sea. And so as we're thinking about a sense of balance, of duality, we had east and west, Hikina and Komohana. We have Iuka here up in the mountains. And then next we're going to go to the balance. So the balance of the mountains is going to be Kekai. So Ikai is a direction towards the sea. And we continue our chant. E ui akuan auya oe, aya I hea kawaya kane, aya I kai, I kamoana I ke kualau, I ke anue nue, ka punohu, ka ua koko, I ka a leva leva, aya I laila kawaya kane. This question I ask of you, where is the water of Kane? Yonder at sea, on the ocean, in the driving rain, in the heavenly bow, in the piled up mist wraith, in the blood red rainfall, in the ghost pale cloud form, there is the water of Kane. And this was taken at Kayaka Beach Park. And so this little piece of mountain, this is the very end of the Waianae mountain range. And at the very end here, Kaena Point is a very famous point on our island of Oahu with a lele, also called a leina, where ghosts will move on into the next world. Some say they dive down into the sea. There are many different stories of where they go, but this is one place that they gather. And so I didn't see this rainbow until I was actually taking a video of the ocean. And as I was going fast forward, I saw it pop out. And so this is a screenshot, especially when we think of that heavenly bow, that piled up mist wraith, the ghost pale cloud form. And so the ocean is a very important source of water. And when we go back to our original theme for the week of flowing like the river, I learned to flow in the ocean. Here in Hawaii, I believe we only have one navigatable river, the Wailua River on Kauai. And so I learned my flow in the ocean. And my dad's the one who taught me at Kailua Beach, when you've got a wave coming at you, you can get smacked in the face with it. That is always an option. But he recommended diving under the wave, passing up and over the wave, or sometimes if you just turn to the side, that wave will pass you right by. And so that wisdom of the ocean in teaching us how to not only flow, but how to navigate what's coming at us, I think is very important wisdom. So we have our pairs, Hikina Komohana, east and west, Iuka Ikai, to the mountains, to the sea. And now we move on to the final pair. And so here we have Iluna, which means above, that which is above us. E ui akuan auya oe, aya I hea kawaya kane, aya Iluna kawaya kane, I ke uli, ke au ele ele, ke au pano pano, I ke au po polohua mea a kane la e, aya I laila kawaya kane. The question I ask of you, where is the water of Kane? Up on high is the water of Kane, in the heavenly blue, in the black piled cloud, in the black cloud, in the black mottled sacred cloud of the gods. There is the water of Kane. And when we think about, or when I think about clouds, just the Hawaiian thought, clouds are very important for navigation. I haven't been voyaging out on the open ocean, just a little bit when I was really little with my dad. But when a canoe is out at sea, distant land can actually be reflected on the bottom of clouds. You can see clouds forming over islands before you even see the island itself. You can see that color, that green color reflecting under the clouds. And so I think of clouds as a means of navigation, of guiding us. We have so many strata. We have the upper cirrus clouds, this very, very high, wispy clouds in the upper atmosphere. We have the lower elevations where you might see the round cumulus clouds, clouds that form directly over mountains. Having an understanding of what these different cloud forms are and how they form and why they form and what that might mean for us, I think is really shown beautifully in this chant. And it names a number of cloud forms, but there are so many. There are so many names for clouds. I think that it shows a level of observation and understanding of the natural, just the natural worlds, to be able to name each of these different cloud forms. Now, moving on to our pairs. So if we have Iluna, naturally, we are going to go Ilalo, which is down. And this photo is natural. It's not, the color has not been edited in any way. This is a spring in Tahiti, a very famous spring, and this blue color is so stunning. And so here, Ilalo, we come to the completion of our chant. E ui akuan auia oi, aya I hea kawai akane, aya Ilalo, aya I ka honua, I ka vai hu, I ka vai kau a kane me kanaloa. He vai mapuna, he vai e inu, he vai e mana, he vai e ola no ea. One question I ask of you, where is the water of Kane? Deep in the ground, in the gushing spring, in the ducts of Kane and Kanaloa. A well of spring water to quaff, a water of magic power, the water of life, life, oh, give us this life. And so when we understand this water cycle, it's very easy to see stream water, to see the ocean, to see the clouds, to feel the rain. That's all very visible. But once we start thinking about the water that is below us, the water that resides and is held within the earth, that is a whole nother level of water. And there are two of the major Hawaiian gods, Kane and Kanaloa. Kane is the god of fresh water. Kanaloa is actually more often than not, associated with the ocean. He's the god of the ocean. Well, with underground water, freshwater sources, that's the domain of Kanaloa. So the god of the ocean is also associated with water found below the earth. And when we think of Kane, who is associated with day, with light, with sun, with understanding, with, just with light and order, Kanaloa, as the god of the ocean, is symbolized by the ocean, the fluidity, creatures like the octopus that are so able to adapt. And we see this understanding of the subconscious. So the realm of dreams, the realm of inspiration, the realm of the inner self. And so our final pair, Iluna, that which is above, to me, I think of the things that we can see that take shape like clouds and rain. Ilalo, below, we have the things that dwell below the surface. Water, there we go. I think a drop of water fell. That we have this balance between our outer lived world and the inner depths of who we are. And so let's go back one more time, and I will do the chant in its entirety. So this is Kawai Akane. E ui he ni nau, e ui akuan auia oi, aya I hea Kawai Akane, aya I kahikina kala puka I hae hae, aya I laila Kawai Akane. E ui akuan auia oi, aya I hea Kawai Akane, aya I kaulana kala I kapaio pua I ke kai, ea mai ana mani hoa makamole mai ole hua, aya I laila Kawai Akane. E ui akuan auia oi, aya I hea Kawai Akane, aya I ke kuahiwi, ke kualono, ke avava I ke kahawai, aya I laila kawaya kane. E uia kuana au ia oi, aya I hea kawaya kane. Aya I kai, ka moana, I ke kualau, I ke a nue nue, I ka punohu, I ka ua koko, I ka a leva leva. Aya I laila kawaya kane. E uia kuana au ia oi, aya I hea kawaya kane. Aya I luna kawaya kane. I ke o uli, ke au ele ele, ke au pano pano, I ke au popolo hua mea a kane la e. Aya I laila kawaya kane. E uia kuana au ia oi, aya I hea kawaya kane. Aya I lalo I ka honua, I ka vai hu, I ka vai kau a kane me kanaloa. He vai mapuna, he vai e inu, he vai e mana, he vai e ola. E ola no ea. And let's all do 2 claps to close. All right, mahalo nui, everybody. I realize that I just shared a lot of different things, but I'm hoping that there is something that has caught your attention. And so I'm just going to go back here once again, just for a little visual. And I'd like everybody just to consider for a moment if there was one direction or another that particularly drew you today. Whether it's our first pair, Hikina Komohana, the east and the west, Iuka Ikai, the mountains to the sea, Iluna Ilalo, what is above, what is below. That I just bring that forward for our discussion, if there is anything in particular that drew you today. So mahalo nui, everybody.
Thank you so much, Kumu Mālia. And I'm wondering if anyone would like to start us off. What touched you in the ones that she discussed, the different ways of flow? And I'm wondering what touched you in that. Would anyone like to share? Well, I'll start then. For me, when you asked what touched was the one below, the depth of that blue. But what I got in the flow, which I thought was really powerful, was east was new beginnings and west was endings of life and what we do. It's like a full circle. And then it was on moving on from the ocean water to the mountains and then to flow with the ocean. And then it was heaven and earth. And I think there's something around that comes together for me in my subconscious or in the depths of who I am, because when I'm in connection or feel in the flow is when I actually literally feel connected to all of that. It's like I sit in the center of that and I'm trusting and listening and being guided. And so it really touched my heart, because I realized for me, flow means to really listen deeply and just to trust and surrender, and that we have all of these different forces guiding us and supporting us on our journey. So that was really powerful. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. That was so beautifully said. In traditional prayers of healing, it's really interesting that we go very in depth in pairs, right? So we have blessings from above to below, from inside to outside, from one corner to the other corner, from the east to the west, from the zenith to the horizon, from the base of the tree to the top of the tree, from the rising to the setting of the sun. We have many, many pairs of opposites. And the way that I've been taught is that when we can sense and go to the outer edges of these dualities, then we can start to find and navigate our way to our own center. And having these pairs is not just a Hawaiian thing. We see it very clearly in, well, there's the still and moving logo, still and moving. There's the yin yang. There are so many pairs, and I think that it's a very universal thing to sense the opposites and navigate to center. In body work, we see that in anatomical locating terms. Superficial, I forget what, posterior, anterior, superior, inferior. There's a lot, proximal, distal. These locating terms for anatomy allow us that precision of finding exactly where that part of the anatomy is. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. Who would like to share next about what touched them? What direction or what touched them with her talk?
So in this experience of flowing water, what's being affected? Is it the body? Is it kind of the psychology? Or is it, you might say, the soul?
That's a wonderful question. And I would say all of it. Water is life. There's a phrase, "Olai kawai," water is life. And so everything from our inhalation and exhalation to the blood coursing through our veins, the water that we intake and pass on, all the water on the earth has always been here. From when the dinosaurs were here. It's pretty amazing to think about how that water has cycled through. And I think as an analogy for pure life force energy, we might think of it as mana, as energy. But I think that that flow is experienced in so many ways. This chant is just one way of trying to encapsulate a little piece of that, that interconnections. I hope that answered your question.
Yes.
Mahalo nui.
Yes, aloha is what I felt was such a comprehensive circular connection where all these points are points of a total connection. Everything doesn't stand alone. Nothing stands alone. It's all interdependent. It's all interrelated. And water is purifying. And so this is a real kind of a purification of life, or a purification that is the strength of life and could also raise life in terms of what we do and how we think. So it is very powerful. And I was very touched by the points of interconnection really being a dynamic whole. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that, points of the interconnected whole. That's just beautiful. And doesn't it seem like so much of art is about trying to capture that, whether it's through music or through storytelling, through the sharing of our own personal stories, relating to legends. It's just trying to find that, that interconnected whole, finding our place in that. So mahalo nui. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
What touched you? Think about what touched your heart as you listened to the talk today. And if you'd share that, we can all learn from each other.
And I do welcome questions too. That was really lovely, Carolyn. Thank you.
What touched me especially was the first pair, because the other pairs I kind of had thought of before, but I never really thought of the waters of the east with the dew and the beginning of the day, and just it evokes so many visual images of the early morning and the dew on the grass and the delicacy of life. And similarly, the West as being somehow associating with the leaving of life, of death, and that being connected to the water. I guess being a Westerner, I think of Heraclitus, the philosopher who said, everything flows. The only unchangeable law is the law of change. And then he famously said, we can't step into the same river twice. Its fresh waters are flowing around us anew each time. And that the image of East and West brought that forth to me, that idea of beginnings and ends.
Thank you so much for that. There's a really beautiful song. It's a modern Hawaiian song. E ku'u morning dew, alia mai, describing love as my morning dew. My love is my morning dew. Ephemeral, maybe, but the song goes on to say that may our love be like the mist the dew and the mist of the upper mountains that never fades away. And so yes, I agree. The imagery is poetry just of itself. So thank you for sharing that. And
Kalamai,
yes,
kalamai, kumu,
aloha.
o vai punanani, Heloise. Pehe oi.
My Ka'i, your name was in there.
I think my thing is there's the nighttime and the day, and you need to have both to have one or the other and to connect. I also feel a connection with the mountain and the water. What I know, all the Hawaiians have a connection with the land and the mountain. I didn't get that connection till later on, till I started really getting into my culture, which is Hawaiian and Hula. Connection is strong. I'm really connected to the water. My name, Waipunanani, means the spring water, the beautiful spring water. I didn't make the connection until later. The water, for me, the water, the land, the mountain make you all connect. You can be one. And I really didn't grasp it till maybe 5-6 years ago. Kikane sensei. My other half is a Tai Chi teacher, and he's on a different well. You need the moon and the sun. He said Hula was the same thing, but I didn't make the connection. So everything that I've learned in the last 5 or 6 years, I connected with the mountain and the ocean, because I was always surrounded with it, but I never appreciated it until later on in life. You can get that connection. The aina is there. And I was telling my class the other day that I was walking on the grass and I could actually feel the grass or feel the water. And you look at the rainbow, it's just beautiful. And it's not just looking at it, it goes through your eyes and in your body. It's on a different realm when they start feeling that connection.
But I'm going to go ahead and just reshare my screen one more time, because I really loved what you mentioned about the mountains. And if you notice here, we have the highest mountain ridges, the mountain tops, the valleys, and this is where the rivers come in. Rivers are linked to the mountains, and I think having that connection and understanding that the water flows down, collecting together and flowing to the sea through our rivers and our streams. And so I feel like everything that you had to share with us is completely in line. So thank you so much, Waipunanani. I appreciate you. And I just want to call upon Robert. I think you're another Bob. Aloha. Thank you.
Aloha. I wanted to make a comment about Bob, just a philosophical issue, which is that some say that Heraclitus says you couldn't put your foot in the same stream twice, but others say that you couldn't put your foot in the same water twice. That it is the same river, but the water has changed. The subtle distinction. I'm not quite sure what it means. But I want to thank you for, the balance of the 6 perspectives that you've given us, because I realized that I'm very, very much attracted to the West. Live in California, which is the west of USA. But also, it's curious to always think in terms of ending, to think in terms of death. I never realized how much I think that way. And that it's very important to look at all the perspectives and not get dominated by a particular one. But the other part is, you know, is the ocean is home. No, we all go back to the ocean. So that's the other part of it, you know, it's like home.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. In regards to the stream, whether it's the same water or the same stream, it really is about how we assign our meaning, right? Are we talking about the river as its own self? Like our stream is Waikakalaua. It's always Waikakalaua, no matter what water molecules happen to be passing by at the time. So it's all about how we define the words and assign our meaning. But I think I really love what you have to say about understanding this whole. And a chant like this, it's only giving us just a little glimpse into that interconnected whole. And while I mentioned all of these different points of opposition, like above, below, inside, outside, corner to corner, even though it feels like we're sending out these spokes into space, the way that I was taught is that we're forming a sphere around us. We're shaping our world by noticing and by naming these outer, you know, these outer limits. And so thank you so much.
Aloha, Kumu Mālia. Sorry, I'm a little. Hey, I love the idea of contrast with this idea of you don't really know where the center is unless you know where the edges are. And I think your talk of the sphere addresses that. And also this notion that Robert brought up, subtle distinctions are our way of, one of my teachers said that distinction is the basis of creation. And so when we make these distinctions by looking up, looking down, left, right, top, bottom, corner to corner, I'm just thinking also you probably can relate to this idea when a client lays on the massage table and they're kind of off-centered. I say, feel the edges, know where your edges are so you know where your center is. And I'm thinking that the truth of our being is that we are at the center, but in our limited perspective as a human being, we tend to look maybe too narrowly and we lose the perspective. And so this chant represents how we can expand our awareness of who we really are by looking at all of the edges. And thank you so much.
Thank you. I think it does provide a wonderful template for even being able to grasp these edges. When you're talking about the center and finding our way out, I think it's so interesting how, you know, some people like the inside of the sandwich, some people love the crust. Some people like the middle of the mochi. I like the outer edges of that baked butter mochi. You know, we are going to be directed, and maybe we'll have more, you know, if you live in the West, you might have more of an affinity or just more awareness of one direction or another. But to have a chant like this, I think is similar to me to looking at the archetype of the hero's journey, passing through all of these different phases, however many phases you acknowledge, but there is this passage and development of a person, of a character, that by looking at it in a story, we can begin to apply it to ourselves. And so when we have a chant like this, we can begin to orient. And maybe that's a really interesting word to bring into our discussion, is how do we orient ourselves so that we can make our next choice. So mahalo nui for that, David.
Mary, I was wondering if you'd share what you've been thinking. I know you're connected and you love each other, and I just would like to hear what you have to say.
Oh, bless you, Diana, and thank you, Mālia. Where I am drawn is to the sunrise. As you can see, my background is that sunrise. And I always groan when we go in the morning to Hi'uvai, which is chanting up the day, chanting up the sun, because it's always so early.
Yeah.
And I am not a morning person. So it is a struggle sometimes to get there. Once we're there, we are seated on the sand, looking out at that ocean, that beautiful, beautiful horizon, whether it's cloudy. We've been there in the rain, we've been there in the wind, in the sun, calm seas, rough seas. It just changes me. And I am so grateful that I made the effort. And I think all of our lives are like that. We are presented with things, and it's what we do with it that evolves and gives us a grace, gives us hope, gives us pleasure, gives us just a wonderful time. And so I applaud everybody who makes the effort to do something that's outside of their comfort zone. Amen.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much for that. And so what my mom is describing is a practice of hi'uwai. So hi'uwai is a practice of cleansing that I was taught by my hula teacher, where we go to the ocean before the sun rises. Some actually begin in the complete darkness of the morning and watch as the different levels of light unfold into the day. And then we chant to wake up the sun, and then we actually go into the water. And when I was younger, we would hold hands and all immerse together 3 times. And then post-pandemic times, we've been going individually into the water, which is another practice, either holding hands in a circle or as a group, walking out on your own timing, immersing in your own way, and coming out when you're ready. But it's the physical cleansing of the body that allows a spiritual cleansing as well. So thank you, Mom. I do have 2 more slides, and so if there's a pause in the comments or the questions, I can continue a little bit, but I'm happy to take another comment or a question.
That would be great, Malia. Thank you.
Okay, so this might inspire a little bit more conversation. And so this picture will be very significant to Renee. I took this picture sitting next to her in a helicopter. So this is looking down at the lava flow. And so here we see a river of fire, even though it looks like hematite almost, right? Or like mercury. This, under that thin shell veneer of rock, was flowing hot red magnificent lava. And this is a picture of Green Lake. You may or may not have heard of Green Lake on the Big Island, but this used to be a pond or a lake, and a single finger of lava came in, touched this lake, and evaporated it instantly. Yeah, it just, the heat was such that this entire body of water just evaporated. And as we see happening in Lahaina, a lack of water has been absolutely catastrophic. And when we think about Lahaina as the Venice of the Pacific, as a wetland that was, the waters were drained for agriculture. It was back in the days of sugarcane and pineapple that the water, that life source of the land, was diverted and moved into to different areas. That water has since been continued to be diverted for hotels, for gentlemen estate farms, and what we see is a change in the land that has just been so catastrophic, where fire hoses ran out of water. And so I was really touched by this quote of, "A talent is formed in stillness, a character in the world's torrent." So that's going a whole nother direction, right? But rivers of fire, what is that? Oh, Mom, you talk about it, where you burn metal to remove all the yeah. What is that?
Purified in fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe we've all had an experience where a challenge, something that tested us to the core, was transformational as well. Yeah, and that is a type of flow in itself. How do we flow with the torrent? How do we decide when is it time to cling on tightly to find something that we can hold on to, others that we can cling to, and when is it time to just let that torrent take us? It's the eternal question, everyone. Yeah. So that might be a point of contemplation rather than sharing, but I'm welcome any comment.
You really spoke to me with regard to how you approach the ocean. And I grew up in Southern California, where and we have some fairly large waves. And I was very young, preteen, and just learning the waves and body surfing. At one point, I was still, before I had learned to flow with it, I was held underwater. And I had this moment of revelation that if I didn't surrender and allow myself to naturally float upward, that my struggle would be my demise. And it transformed my relationship with the waves. And after a little bit of recovery time, I learned that when I step into the ocean, I don't just turn and let them pass me. I join in with them and flow with them to shore, or as long as I can get a ride. And then I swim right back out and grab the next one. So there's a notion of surrender in what you said as well that I thought might be worth sharing.
Thank you. I have struggled with this question in so many different ways. You know, when to hang on, when to let go. To what degree do we hold on? To what degree do we let go? And I think that that is just the experience of being human. And so I'm so thankful for spaces like this where we can learn, we can share, we can gain new perspective. I really appreciate this space. I do have one more slide, but before we do, waiau, aloha, Renée.
Yes, thank you so much. Last summer, when I attended a retreat that was for honoring life passages, I was with a group of people of whom I was definitely the senior, and I was celebrating embracing my kapunahood, entering that elder phase of life, at least on the outside. And we were all gathered before we went on a solo one day overnight with each of us on our own. We all gathered at the banks of a river on the rocky shelves beside this river. And as we were all gathered there and going through a ceremony to begin the journey, I just began to realize what a beautiful image that the river was flowing from up above, whether the source was a high spring, someplace like Waialeale perhaps, or whether the source was, the rains coming down and forming a river. Whatever it was, the source of the river was always high. And so that was the new little beginning. And then our lives flow throughout the course of our lives, down, closer to the ocean. And then that entering the ocean is once again entering the all, the oneness. And then, of course, there's always that beautiful life cycle, and the little droplets evaporate up and they start down the river again. So it was a really wonderful experience that I wanted to share.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And that is a perfect segue into our final slide. which is a wonderful quote from Light on the Path. There is a natural melody, an obscure fount in every human heart. It may be hidden over and utterly concealed and silenced, but it is there. At the base of your nature, you will find faith, hope, and love. And so this picture I took with my mom. This is Waipo'o Falls in Kauai, so up in the Waimea Canyon. Just a beautiful, beautiful, very visible waterfall on the way up into the uplands of Koke'e. And I remember we were coming down after a very long, intense, beautiful weekend of hula. And I remember looking at Mom, and she was like, "Oh, do you want to stop and look at the waterfall?" And it was cloudy. It was, I don't know, the conditions were just not very clear. And I remember looking at Mom and saying, "Well, you know, let's see. We'll see, you know, maybe if there's something will tell us." And so we rounded the corner and I saw this rainbow heart in the middle of this waterfall. And that rainbow was just dwelling where you could see it. Now the rainbow is, you know, it's complete, it's there, and it's more than just a bow, it's actually a whole circle. But what we could see made visible was this rainbow heart. And this image then became symbolic for me, and a very, very powerful image of just that rainbow heart, and how we can see that, that sense of flowing and healing and cleansing. And even though our soul, our nature can be sometimes hidden over, or maybe not our nature, maybe what we present to the world, who we feel that we are, can be hidden over, concealed, and even silenced. But that core, that base of who we are, that pure essence of who we are, is faith and hope and love. And so if anybody would like to share a reflection, faith and hope and love, it's medicine for the soul. And how neat, I've been just in rain and rain and sun.
Aloha. What a beautiful way to spend the afternoon. I was just reflecting on how, you know, we may work in buildings, but this chant just brought us kind of to the outer edges of nature, and then how the cloud over the mountain was just so powerful, and then it's like Euka, and then Ikai coming down and being grounded in that beautiful blue, and the surprise of the rainbow that decided to join there, and just the awareness of that we can take into a building, because we have that feeling or that vision inside us, but also a reminder to go to the edges of, you know, getting up before the sun and being there when the sun sets. And I love when on the Big Island, when I was playing with the Kona Orchestra and Choir, I stayed with a friend in Kealakekua Bay, and she set her timer for sunset, you know, like 15 minutes before, everything stopped. And we went to the ocean and watched the sunset. And wouldn't that be magical? And, you know, and I've been going to the ocean for a walk in the morning. And so I think I'm going to make it a new goal, is to get there before when it's dark, which I've done before, but it's so magical. And the beautiful, I want to listen to it again, the song that used the love is the morning dew, that is just so precious and magical. So this was just a deep awareness of love and faith and hope, I feel, from this journey that we did together. And your voice is just so beautiful and just a gift to all of us. And the poetry of the Hawaiian language is just so beautiful. And I'm blessed to be here. Thank you.
Mahalo nui. Thank you so much, Joan. So the song is a Ku'u Morning Dew by Eddie Kamai. It's beautiful poetry. So I hope you all look it up. And like so many songs, there are many people that have recorded it in different ways. So it's interesting to see which one resonates with you. We're rounding into our last couple of minutes. So I see your hand up, Maurice, if you have just a short reflection. Aloha.
Just a short reflection. Before you mentioned the rainbow, I was going to ask you a question about it. And the reason was in Santa Barbara, over the whole city, as Robert and Carolyn would know, this week we had 2 rainbows, but one was a magnificent sphere. And the only short comment to make was, we've all heard the statement, all the colors in the rainbow. And I think when you talk about the heart can embrace all the colors of the rainbow. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Rainbows could easily be a whole nother hour. I love rainbows. I've even seen a rainbow that's split into 2. And it's a scientific thing. They do that sometimes. The circular rainbow, there's so many, so many different kinds of rainbows. And what a blessing to see that over your
it
space.
really felt like fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the circular rainbows, it's all about your elevation. So often people see that in the airplane looking down. You'll see a circular rainbow. So it's your perspective. So we're bringing forward the word perspective, which I think is a perfect close. You know, that our time together, that our discussion, our reflections can just bring about some beautiful perspective for each and every one of us. So
Thank
mahalo
you
nui,
so
everybody.
much. Thank you so much. That was just beautiful, and it touched each of our hearts, and something for all of us to work with and live with this next week. I'm going to ask for a vote of thanks after I explain what we're going to do the next 2 weeks. So if someone would like to volunteer. And next week, Bob Buss is going to talk about reverence. So we thank you, Bob, for doing that. That's going to be exciting. And the next week is the language of the soul. And this is going to be a time, again, the citizens of the future, and what are the many different parts, and finding our center and going with the flow was just perfect for that. Thank you, Kumu Mālia. That was beautiful. Would someone like to give a vote of thanks?
I will give a vote of thanks. I feel like, Leah, that you given life to water and life to us, and celebrated the life of the planet in all its varied aspects, and given us the fountain of youth. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Kumu Mālia. And this will close our session. And then we're going to stay online for anyone that would like to stay on for an extra few minutes and talk about anything. We'll be on the line. Otherwise, the recording is over, and it's been a pleasure to be together and to share this journey together. Thank you, everybody.
Mahalo nui, everybody. And there's a view of a little patch of blue sky. It's just rain and light and shadow. It's just that interconnected whole. Mahalo nui, everybody. Before we hit end on the recording, I'd like to close with an oli. The first one was an ancient traditional Hawaiian chant. This next one is one that I wrote about the water cycle, about water that rises, gathers in clouds, falls as rain, and brings life to earth. Kawaiola. Hei ai kawai, kawai ola, ai e I kalani, ako ka ele ua, ue kalani, ola ka honua. Mahalo, everybody. Aloha.